£90,000. The number flashed across the ballroom screen, and 300 people turned to stare at the woman holding paddle 17. I smiled because I still believed this was about business. The auctioneer lifted one eyebrow. "We have 90,000 from Miss Simone Vale for a private strategy weekend with Lena Hart. Do I hear 95? 100,000. Nadia Petrov did not bother lifting her paddle. She simply raised one finger, as if the money were a waiter she had summoned. The room erupted. Champagne glasses stopped halfway to painted mouths. Cameras swung toward me. I had donated 48 hours of professional consulting, 2 days with me, my research team, and every market strategy tool my company owned. The estimate in the auction booklet was £25,000, 30 if 2 ambitious executives decided to show off. Then Vivian Lau stood beside the center aisle, silver silk falling around her like water. 110,000, she said. And I don't need the research team. People laughed. I did not. The auctioneer grinned at me. It seems Ms. Hart is the most desirable lot of the evening. Consultant, I corrected into my microphone. The most desirable consultant. More laughter. This time it sounded different. Simone Vale, owner of luxury hotels on 4 continents, crossed one long leg over the other. 120,000. Nadia answered at once. 130. Vivian looked directly at me. 140. The auctioneer's voice cracked with delight. Ladies and gentlemen, we have £140,000 for 1 weekend with Lena Hart. 1 weekend with me, not my company, not my analysts, me. My smile hardened. I looked past the bidders, past the press table and the charity trustees, toward the darkest table at the back of the ballroom. Celeste was sitting there. My wife wore black and no jewelry. For 2 hours, she had barely looked at me. When I stepped onto the stage, she applauded exactly twice, then folded her hands as if I were a stranger giving a quarterly report. That was Celeste Arden in public, controlled, remote, impossible to read. That was also Celeste Arden at home lately. We had been married for 18 months, and no one in that ballroom knew. Simone raised her paddle again. £150,000. The number exploded across the screen behind me. £150,000. Applause thundered through the ballroom. Simone smiled at me over the rim of her glass. "I assume Ms. Hart can choose the hotel," she said. The auctioneer laughed too loudly. Vivian leaned toward Nadia and whispered something that made both women smile. Every camera in the room seemed to move closer. I looked at Celeste. For the first time that evening, she looked back. There was no expression on her face, but I saw the pulse beating at the base of her throat. I knew the signs. Celeste was not calm. She was furious. I silently begged her not to do anything. She did not raise a paddle. She did not stand. She did not bid £160,000 for something that was already hers in every private way that mattered. Instead, the auction screen went black. The foundation logo and the number vanished. A white document filled the wall behind me. Then the image sharpened, and my signature appeared 6 feet tall above the stage. Certificate of Marriage. Lena Elise Hart. Celeste Marianne Arden. The room became so silent that I heard a spoon strike a saucer somewhere near the back. Then Celeste's voice came through the sound system. "The weekend is not available. Chaos does not begin with noise. It begins with 1 second of perfect stillness when everyone sees the same disaster and chooses what to do with it. The press chose noise. Reporters jumped from their chairs. Phones rose. The auctioneer backed away as if marriage were contagious. Simone stared at Celeste with a look that could have frozen champagne. Within seconds, the ballroom was a storm of questions. Lena, did your board know? Celeste, did Arden Capital finance Heart Strategy? Was the auction listing fraudulent? Is this why Ms. Hart won the Northbridge contract? That last question cut through every other sound. I could not see who had asked, but I knew who would benefit. My company had spent 11 months competing for Northbridge, Europe's largest independent retail transformation contract. Monday's final presentation would be judged by a board that included a Northbridge selector. My rival, Adrian Cross, had spent weeks suggesting I was too young and too unknown to lead it. Now the world knew I was married to the woman whose investment firm had influence in half the rooms where I did business. The story had already written itself. I had not built Heart Strategy. I had married it. I ripped the microphone from its stand. The auction item is 48 hours of professional consulting, I said. My voice came out steady, although my hands were shaking. The winning bidder will receive exactly what was described in the catalogue, and every pound will go to the foundation. The auctioneer looked relieved. Simone looked amused. Then my bid stands, she said. Another wave of noise broke over us. I stepped down from the stage and pushed through the questions toward Celeste. She was waiting beside the rear doors. She extended a hand, as if she expected me to let her lead me out. I walked past it. Lena, don't. They were humiliating you. I turned so fast she almost walked into me. And you decided to rescue me by humiliating me more. Her face tightened. That is not what I did. You put our marriage certificate on a public screen. They needed to know. I needed to choose. Reporters flooded the corridor. Celeste caught my arm, but I pulled free before cameras could turn the touch into another claim. We left through the service entrance in separate cars. By the time I reached my office, the photograph was everywhere. 3 billionaire women bid £150,000 for secretly married consultant. Celeste Arden claims her wife in charity auction shock. Who really owns Heart Strategy? The last headline came from Adrian Cross. Within an hour, my board requested an emergency meeting, Northbridge demanded an explanation, 2 clients paused negotiations, and the video reached 8 million views. I watched it once. The woman on the screen did not look loved. She looked cornered. Celeste arrived alone at my office at 1:20. She closed the door. Our legal team is preparing a statement. Your legal team, they can protect both of us. They can go home. Northbridge is asking questions. We need to establish that Arden Capital has no ownership in your company. It doesn't. I know. My board doesn't. My clients don't. Millions of strangers don't. They learned I was your wife at the exact moment you used your power to seize control of a room. She flinched, but only slightly. Celeste had been trained since childhood to bleed without staining the carpet. I saw how they were looking at you, she said. So? So I stopped it. You revealed that I belonged to you. I walked closer until there was no desk, no security, no polished public distance between us. You never asked whether I wanted to belong publicly. Her eyes changed then. The anger went out of them, leaving something more frightened behind. You are my wife. In private, when we both chose it. Tonight you turned that choice into evidence. Was I supposed to sit there while they purchased a weekend with you? You were supposed to trust me to handle my own auction. You were uncomfortable. Yes, and I had a microphone. I had a voice. You did not use either one with me. You used a screen against me. She looked toward the cold city beyond my windows. I thought you would understand. That has always been our problem. You think understanding you is the same thing as agreeing with you. 18 months earlier, I had thought secrecy would protect us. When I met Celeste, Heart Strategy had 3 employees, 1 broken printer, and enough money to survive for 6 weeks. I was invited to pitch at the Arden Future Forum only because another speaker cancelled. Celeste sat in the front row. Everyone knew her. She had inherited a damaged investment company, removed 6 corrupt directors in 1 week, and doubled its value. Business magazines called her the Ice Heiress. I called her out during my presentation. "You're wrong," I told her when she questioned my forecast. The room woke up. Celeste tilted her head. About which part? The assumption that loyalty can be purchased through discounts. Customers do not want companies to bribe them. They want companies to remember them. Memory at scale is expensive. So is irrelevance. I expected my invitation to disappear. Instead, Celeste waited after the room emptied. "You did not answer my question," she said. I answered the question beneath it. And what question was that? Whether a company can make people care without first caring about them. For a moment, the Ice Heiress forgot to be cold. She smiled. Our first dinner lasted 4 hours. Our second ended at sunrise. She did not invest in my company, even when I desperately needed the money, because I told her I never wanted anyone to wonder whether she had bought my success. "Then I will help in ways that leave no fingerprints," she said. At the time, it sounded romantic. She introduced no clients, made no calls, and never mentioned my company in rooms I had not entered on my own. We celebrated every victory at home. Celeste said secrecy was temporary. "The press will reduce you to my girlfriend," she warned. "Every success will become a favor. Every failure will become proof that I carried you." She was right. That was what made the arrangement so easy to accept. 6 months later, she placed her grandmother's ring in my palm and asked one honest question. "Will you choose me even if no one applauds?" I said yes. We married at a registry office on a wet Tuesday. Afterward, we ate chips beneath one umbrella, and I thought I had been given the only version of her that was real. But secrecy changes shape when you live inside it too long. At first, it was a shelter. Then it became a wall. At company events, Celeste stood across the room. When I won Entrepreneur of the Year, she sent me a message from 20 feet away. "Proud of you." I read it while strangers embraced me. At home, she pressed cold feet against mine and left notes in the books I carried on flights. But whenever the world came near us, a door closed inside her. The more visible I became, the colder she acted. And the colder she acted, the more jealous she became. She never asked me not to meet someone. She simply knew too much afterward. "Did Simone Weil really need to touch your shoulder for the photograph? Vivienne Lau invited you to Venice twice. Nadia Petrov does not schedule midnight dinners for market research." Every sentence arrived in the same calm tone, polished until concern sounded like surveillance. "Are you jealous?" I asked her once. "No." "Then why do you care?" "I care about how people use you." That answer hurt more than jealousy would have. Jealousy admitted love. Her answer suggested management. The week before the auction, I found the Bellwether catalog on her desk. "You're coming?" I asked. "If you want me there." "I always want you there." She shut the catalog. "Simone Weil called your personal number 3 times this week. About a hotel acquisition. At 11 at night?" She lives in New York. Of course. I waited for her to admit that imagining me with someone else frightened her. Instead, She opened her laptop. "You should wear the green dress," she said. "It photographs well." That was the woman who sat at the back of the ballroom while 3 billionaires bid for my time. She had spent a year pretending indifference was dignity, then shattered our privacy in one act of public possession. In my office after the auction, Celeste finally turned away from the window. "I was jealous," she said. It was the first time I had heard the words from her. They came too late to comfort me. "Jealousy explains what you felt," I said. "It does not excuse what you did." "I know." "Do you?" She took a breath. "I watched them turn your work into access to your body. I watched the room laugh, and I hated them. Then I realized I hated myself more, because I had agreed to sit there like I had no right to defend you. You had every right to support me. You did not have the right to expose me. I understand the difference now." "No, you understand that I'm angry. The difference is harder." My phone vibrated on the desk. Another board member, another demand for an explanation. "Go home, Celeste." "Our home? Not tonight." The question wounded her, but she nodded. By 8 the next morning, my conference room was full. Adrian Cross was not invited, but his interview lay in front of every chair. He suggested Arden Capital had quietly guaranteed my contracts and called my independence manufactured. I wanted to tear the pages in half. Instead, I distributed our audited accounts. "No Arden company has invested £1 in Heart strategy," I said. "Celeste has never referred a client, guaranteed a loan, or participated in a pitch. Our marriage was private, not financially concealed." One director, Martin Hale, removed his glasses. "The distinction will be difficult for the public to appreciate." "Then we make them appreciate it." Northbridge may delay Monday's presentation. They haven't cancelled. The Bellwether Board is meeting tomorrow. Several members believe your auction item created reputational risk. My item created £150,000 for children's hospitals. Your wife created reputational risk. The words hung there. I did not defend Celeste. Love did not require me to lie. "Yes," I said. "She did." My chief operating officer, Priya Shah, leaned forward. "What do you want to do?" "Deliver the Northbridge pitch to the Bellwether Board tomorrow. Not a defense of my marriage, the actual pitch. The work they are pretending not to see." Martin shook his head. "The room will be hostile. Then it will be the same as every room I entered before anyone knew my wife's name." After the meeting, I learned that Simone Veil's bid had been formally accepted. She sent a message before lunch. I assume the consultation remains professional. Sadly, I replied with a contract, an agenda, and a list of 6 analysts who would attend every session. She signed within 4 minutes. The contract did not end the scandal. Some people called Celeste's act romantic. Others called it controlling. Thousands told me I should be grateful that a powerful woman loved me enough to lose control. That idea frightened me most. Losing control was not proof of love. Sometimes love was proven by what you refused to control. Celeste did not call me again that day. At 6, Priya entered my office. Arden Capital issued a statement. My stomach dropped. Without asking me, "Read it." Celeste confirmed our marriage and admitted she had displayed the certificate without my consent. She stated that no Arden entity had influenced Heart strategy, then recused herself from every committee connected to Northbridge. The final sentence was the only one that mattered. "Miss Hart does not speak for me, and I will not presume to speak for her." It was not an apology, not yet, but it was the first public sentence Celeste had ever written that gave me more space instead of less. That night, I returned to the house to collect clothes. Celeste sat in the kitchen with cold tea between her hands. There were no lawyers or prepared statements. "I can leave," she said. "I'm only here for a suitcase." "I know." When I came down with my suitcase, she was still at the island. "Why did you recuse yourself?" I asked. "Because saying I never influenced your work is not enough while I remain in a position to influence what happens next. Your board will hate it. They survived me removing 6 directors. They will survive my absence from 3 meetings. And if Northbridge goes to Adrian?" Her fingers tightened around the cup. "Then I will hate it privately." That was new. "You could fix this with one phone call," I said. "Yes. Will you?" "No. Why not?" She looked at me, and for once there was no frost left to protect her. "Because I finally understand that secretly controlling the outcome would be the same mistake in a quieter dress." I set down my suitcase. "Tomorrow, the Bellwether Board will ask whether you helped build my company. What do you want me to say?" The question was so simple that it nearly broke me. What do you want? Not what is safest. Not what will end the scandal. What do you want? "The truth," I said. "Only when they ask you. And then I want you to leave the room." Pain flickered across her face. "Before your pitch?" "Especially before my pitch." She nodded. "All right." The Bellwether Board met the next morning in the same hotel. 14 trustees sat around an oval table while photographers waited behind glass. Celeste arrived first. I arrived alone 10 minutes later. When our eyes met, she gave one small nod and looked away. The chairwoman, Eleanor Price, opened the meeting without ceremony. "Ms. Arden, did you provide financial support to Hart Strategy?" "No." "Did you use your influence to secure contracts for your wife?" "No." "Did you inform Ms. Hart that you intended to reveal your marriage during the auction?" Celeste glanced at me. "No." "Why did you do it?" The room leaned toward her. She chose the ugliest truth instead of a convincing excuse. "Because I was jealous," she said. "Because I confused being her wife with having authority over her, and because power has protected me from the consequences of acting without permission for too long." "Do you believe the revelation should affect our assessment of Ms. Hart's company?" Eleanor asked. "Only if your assessment includes punishing a woman for a decision she did not make." "And your interest in the Northbridge process?" "I have recused myself from it." Eleanor looked down at her notes. "You may remain for Miss Hart's presentation." Celeste stood. "Thank you, but no." She closed her folder and faced the table. "My presence changes how people hear her. Sometimes in her favor, sometimes against it, but always away from the work. I have done enough of that." Then she looked at me. She gave me no smile, apology, or private reassurance. That was the gift. She walked out, and for the first time since our relationship began, Celeste Arden left me alone, in a powerful room, because I had asked her to. The door closed. I connected my laptop to the screen. For 1 second, the blank display reminded me of the certificate. Then my first slide appeared, with no photograph, no reference to Celeste, and no apology. Only one number. 31%. That is how many Northbridge customers left a purchase unfinished last year, I said. Not because the prices were wrong, because the company asked them to begin again every time they changed channels. The trustees looked up. I showed research from 9 cities and interviews with customers forced to repeat the same information to 3 departments. Then I presented our plan: 1 customer memory system, regional teams empowered to solve problems, and a transition that protected jobs. Questions came quickly. Your competitor promises better returns. one trustee said. By closing local service centers. That saves money once and loses trust forever. Can your company handle an account of this size? That was the real question. Can you exist without her? I placed a photograph of my 63 employees on the screen. Heart Strategy was 3 people when I met my wife, I said. We are 63 today. Arden Capital contributed £0 to that growth. Celeste contributed something harder to measure. She challenged me, loved me, frightened me, and sometimes made my life more difficult than it needed to be. None of those things appear on our balance sheet. You are not being asked to award this contract to a marriage. You are being asked whether these 63 people understand Northbridge customers better than anyone else in this process. Test us on that. Reject us on that. But do not replace professional scrutiny with gossip and call it due diligence. Eleanor closed the report in front of her. What happens if the public attention continues? We keep working. And if Ms. Arden's actions damage your company, then she will be accountable for her actions, and I will be accountable for mine. Equality is not sharing blame. It is allowing 2 women in one marriage to remain 2 people. The room went quiet, but no one was waiting for a spectacle. They were listening. When I stepped into the corridor, Celeste was nowhere in sight. Priya stood beside the lift. She left 15 minutes ago, she said. I tried not to show how much that hurt. Priya handed me an envelope. She asked me to give you this after the pitch. Inside was a handwritten note. I wanted to be the first person you saw when you came out. I left because you asked for the room to be yours, and corridors count. I am proud of you. I will wait until you choose to call. I read it twice, then I put it in my pocket and faced the cameras alone. For 4 days, Celeste did not call, send flowers, or arrange an accidental meeting. When a journalist asked whether she expected me home, her spokesperson answered, "That is Ms. Hart's decision." At first, the silence felt like abandonment. Then I understood how unfamiliar respect could feel when I had grown used to control, disguised as protection. On Friday morning, Northbridge announced that Heart Strategy had reached the final contract stage. Adrian Cross's firm had not. The announcement praised our research and independent governance. It mentioned neither my wife nor the auction. My office exploded. Priya opened champagne before breakfast. Analysts danced between desks, and someone placed a paper crown on my head. My first instinct was to call Celeste. I stopped with my thumb above her name. Secrecy and independence were not the same. Independence meant no witness could take authorship of my life. I called her. She answered on the first ring but said nothing. "We made the final stage," I said. Her breath caught. "I know. It was in the financial news," she said quickly. "I did not ask anyone." "Can we talk?" I asked. "Yes. At the registry office. Tomorrow morning." "I'll be there," she said. Rain fell on Saturday. Celeste waited beneath the registry office archway in an old navy jumper. I stopped a few feet away. "You'll catch cold." I was not sure whether arriving with an umbrella would appear presumptuous. "You're terrible at being normal." "I am trying." We walked to the bench where we had eaten chips after our wedding. No cameras waited. Celeste had chosen privacy without secrecy. "I owe you an apology," she said. "Not an explanation. Not a defense. I exposed our marriage without your consent. I used private information to mark a public boundary around you. I made your work harder, and then I expected my intention to matter more than the harm. I was wrong. I watched rain gather on the bare branches above us." "Why were you so afraid to tell people about us before?" "At first, because I knew they would diminish you. And later? She looked down at her hands. Because the more successful you became, the less necessary I felt. If we were private, I could tell myself that I was the center of a life no one else could see. Every room you entered without me made that private life feel smaller. I acted indifferent because asking you to reassure me felt weak. So you punished me for not answering a question you never asked. Yes. And at the auction, I saw 3 women offering more money than most people earn in years just to have your attention. I knew it was professional, but everyone was laughing, as if you were the prize. I wanted the entire room to know they could not have you. I am not available to them because I choose you, Celeste, not because a certificate makes me unavailable. I know that now. Knowing it now does not guarantee you will remember it the next time you are afraid. No, she met my eyes. Only practice can do that. Celeste reached into her pocket, then stopped. May I show you something? The question mattered more than whatever she was holding. Yes. She took out a small folded card. On it was the name of the registry office, a date 6 weeks away, and a reservation time. I reserved the room, she said quickly. Only the room. It can be cancelled. Nothing has been announced, and no one has been invited. What is it for? A vow renewal. Public, if you want it. Private, if you want it. Or nothing at all. Are you asking me to marry you again? I am asking whether you would ever want to choose me where people can see. I am not asking for an answer today. And if I say no, then I cancel the room and spend the rest of our marriage becoming someone you can safely say yes or no to. I looked at the date. No giant screen? No lawyers? No screen. The lawyers do not know I am here today. She smiled, uncertain of the outcome. I did not answer that morning. Repair should not be a dramatic reward for one good apology. It is built in ordinary moments where the old mistake would have been easier. Over the next 6 weeks, Celeste asked. She asked before attending company events or mentioning me in speeches. When Simone scheduled the auction weekend at a coastal hotel, Celeste admitted she was uncomfortable, then asked what support I wanted. Trust me, I said. I do, she answered. She kissed me goodbye in our doorway and said, Come home when your work is finished. The weekend raised another £50,000 for a foundation apprenticeship program. My full team attended. On the final evening, Simone lifted a glass. For the record, she said, I was bidding for the consultant. Vivian laughed through the video screen. I wasn't. Nadia sent the same answer. I laughed with them because this time the joke was not happening around me. I could choose whether to participate. I returned home to find Celeste asleep on the sofa, with no interrogation or hidden check of my schedule waiting. I woke her with a kiss and told her I wanted the registry room. News of the vow renewal came from my company account, in my words, on a Monday morning. 18 months ago, I married Celeste Arden in private. 6 weeks ago, she revealed that marriage without my consent. Next Saturday, I will choose her again in public, not because I belong to her, but because our marriage belongs equally to both of us. I showed Celeste the statement before I posted it. Are you sure? She asked. Yes. Do you want me to share it? After I do. She waited. That small act meant more than the millions who read the statement. We held the vow renewal in the Bellwether Ballroom. It was my suggestion. Our families, colleagues, and charity trustees filled the room. The 3 billionaire bidders sat together near the front, where Simone held a honeymoon gift labeled, For Both Wives. Journalists stood only where I had approved. Every detail had been discussed. Every choice belonged to both of us. Celeste waited for me on the same stage where she had once displayed our marriage certificate. She wore black again, her hands trembling. She did not take mine until I offered it. The officiant asked Celeste to speak first. "I once asked you to choose me when no one was applauding," she said. "I thought private love was purer because no one else could touch it. Then I used the truth of our marriage as if it were a lock, and I hurt the person I most wanted to protect." Her voice shook, but she did not look away. "I cannot promise never to be afraid or jealous. I promise that fear will not become your cage. I will stand beside you when invited, and outside the room when it must be yours. You do not belong to me, Lena. You choose me. I will be worthy of the difference." There was no applause at first. Then it was my turn. But love was not the screen behind us. It was the question she had finally learned to ask. "Celeste, I do not choose you because you fought 3 billionaires for me," I said. A ripple of laughter passed through the room. "You did not need to fight them. I was already coming home." Her eyes filled. "I choose you because when I said your love had become control, you listened. You stepped out and let my work speak. I promise to tell you when I am hurt, before hurt becomes distance. I am not yours. You are not mine. We are ours, for as long as we keep choosing it." The officiant smiled. "You may exchange rings." "One moment," I said. Celeste looked confused. I turned toward Priya. She handed me a slim silver remote. Behind us, the giant screen came to life. Celeste went perfectly still. Our marriage certificate appeared above us, bearing the same signatures and seal. Gasps moved through the ballroom. Beside it appeared our new vows and 2 empty signature lines. Celeste looked at me. "You did this?" I did. "Are you sure?" she still asked, instead of assuming. I raised the microphone. 6 weeks ago, this certificate was placed on a screen to tell the world that I belonged to someone. Today, I put it here myself to say something different. I took Celeste's hand. "This proves we are married. It does not prove that she owns me or that I owe her silence and obedience. A certificate is not possession. It is a promise, and promises matter only when both people remain free to choose them." I looked at Celeste. "I choose this one." She closed her eyes as one tear slipped down her cheek. "May I kiss you?" she whispered. The first time she claimed me in that ballroom, she had used a screen large enough for hundreds of people to see. The second time, she used a question meant only for me. "Yes," I said. When she kissed me, the room rose in applause. Simone Veil lifted her auction paddle and shouted, 160,000. Nadia stood beside her. 170. Vivienne raised both hands. 200,000 for the honeymoon. Everyone laughed, including Celeste. She did not glare or turn our kiss into a contest. She looked at me and waited to see whether I was laughing too. I was. Later, the 3 women donated £200,000 to Bellwether. Northbridge signed with Heart Strategy the following month, and Adrian Cross stopped giving interviews about my independence. The headlines moved on, as headlines always do. Our marriage did not become perfect. Celeste still grew quiet when afraid. I still mistook needing someone for surrender. We still argued about late calls and forgotten milk. But nothing lived behind locked doors anymore. Sometimes, before an event, Celeste held out her hand and asked, "Beside you, behind you, or outside the room?" Most nights, I pulled her beside me. Sometimes I asked her to wait outside. She never loved those nights less. Our marriage certificate now hangs at home beside our second vows. Visitors expect the story to be about 3 billionaire women, £150,000, and a jealous wife who interrupted an auction. But That was only the spectacle. The real story began after the screen went dark, when Celeste learned that loving me did not give her ownership of my truth, and I learned that being seen beside a powerful woman did not erase the power I had built for myself. Anyone can announce a claim before a crowded room. Love is quieter. Love asks, and then it waits for the answer.